Emergence of new COVID-19 variants worrying. Five members of Abu Sayyaf shot dead. Hello and good evening. Thanks for joining us. You're watching News at 10. I'm Shuhaida Arifin. New COVID-19 cases continued to rise in the past 24 hours as the Health Ministry reported 4,865 cases today compared to 4,446 cases yesterday. According to a statement by its Director General, Tan Sri Dr. Noor Hisham Abdullah, 4,860 were local transmissions, while the remaining 5 were import cases. Selangor recorded the highest number of new infections in the country with 1,743 cases, followed by Sarawak with 512 cases and Kuala Lumpur 477 cases. Meanwhile, 3,497 cases recovered and were discharged yesterday, bringing the total number of recoveries up to 432,600, equivalent to a 90.23% recovery rate. Following this development, the number of active cases in Malaysia currently stands at 44,827. From the number, 531 of them are currently being treated in intensive care units, with 277 requiring respiratory aid. The Health Ministry also reported a staggering number of 47 new COVID-19 related deaths in the last 24 hours, bringing the death toll in the country up to 1,994. Meanwhile, Health Director General Tan Sri Dr. Noor Hisham has once again called upon the rakyat to always be cautious and follow Movement Control Order MCO directives to avoid getting infected. This is because the third wave of COVID-19 with its new variants are currently more dangerous and lethal than ever before. Hence, the Health Director General urged the public to always remain vigilant and practice self-MCO to avoid being infected with the pandemic. Tan Sri Dr. Noor Hisham in a statement explained that the emergence of new COVID-19 variants of concern VOC was especially worrying as most infected patients do not show any symptoms. Furthermore, there are even cases where screening tests returned negative despite the patients already in critical condition. The VOC are also more infectious and are also tied to a higher lethality rate. Most patients infected do not show common symptoms such as coughing or fever, and instead only feel joint pain, loss of appetite, and fatigue. However, these new variants can quickly spread to the lungs, cause life-threatening inflammation. 3 new variants have been detected thus far in Malaysia, which originated from South Africa, United Kingdom, and India. Tan Sri Dr. Noor Hisham reminded the public to avoid crowded places and tight spaces, always maintain proper physical distancing, wear face mask, and wash hands regularly with soap or sanitizer. The Enhanced Movement Control Order EMCO would be enforced in Mukim Pelagat in Besut, Terengganu beginning Thursday until 2nd June. Senior Minister for Security Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri Yaakob said the implementation of EMCO at the respective locality would involve 13 villages. In a released statement, Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri said, as of yesterday, a total of 199 COVID-19 cases were reported in the area after the Health Ministry had screened 1,092 individuals. He said the Health Ministry also reported a drastic increase of infections as well as a high infectivity rate in the locality. Meanwhile, the EMCO would also be imposed at Wun Ering Long House and Sekolah Kebangsaan Bakar Kong in Tanjung Manis, Sarawak from Thursday to 2nd June. The Health Ministry reported 5 positive cases within a period of 4 days following symptomatic and close contact screenings. The senior minister said the EMCO aims at restricting the movements of the residents in order to curb the spread of the disease. A full shutdown of the economy as implemented during the first MCO will inflict major setbacks towards the economic recovery of Malaysia. Finance Minister Tengku Datuk Seri Zafrul Tengku Abdul Aziz said the move will disrupt the possibility of the country in achieving 6 to 7% economic growth this year as projected by Bank Negara and the World Bank. Furthermore, it is estimated that unemployed Malaysians may reach a total of 1 million, as well as negatively impacting the incomes of over 2.8 million informal sector workers. Datuk Seri Tengku Zafrul, through a posting on his official Facebook, informed that the second MCO, on the other hand, has successfully reduced the number of COVID-19 cases with a significantly milder impact on the economy and employment. Despite the drastic decline of COVID-19 cases in the first MCO, it had caused many lost their jobs, with an estimated loss of 2.4 billion ringgit a day to the country. Meanwhile, the losses recorded during the second MCO was lower at 300 million ringgit a day. Learning their lesson in the first wave of COVID-19, there is no country in the world that completely shut down their economy to face the second and third wave of COVID-19. Instead, tighter standards operating procedures (SOP) were implemented to limit social activities, which was also adopted by Malaysia. Almost 100% of the tourism industry was paralysed following the implementation of the Movement Control Order MCO 3.0 nationwide. Malaysian Inbound Tourism Association MITA President Uzaidi Udanis said, based on the current situation, the government should consider to offer automatic loan moratorium with zero interest, a special waiver on insurance and road tax and other financial assistance to ease the burden of the industry players.
It's fair that bank can become a corporate role model in helping the nation to combat this pandemic during this challenging time. As I told, pandemic economic, not pandemic COVID-19 only, but pandemic economics. So these loans including the hire purchase loans for tourism vehicle, including those loans given by credit and leasing companies to tourism players, and such as housing loan, hire purchase loan, and business loan.
He said only 20% of MITA's member companies are still surviving and active with fewer than 2 employees. Another 70% have become dormant, while another 10% were forced to close operations. He added that the association also hoped that the National Security Council would establish a special committee that can thoroughly explain the standard operating procedures to the tourism industry to avoid any confusion regarding the existing regulations. The passenger ferry terminal in Kuala Kedah will cease operation during the implementation of the Enhanced Movement Control Order EMCO in the Kota Star district, which will take effect from tomorrow until 1st June. The Marine Department of Malaysia said this was in line with the standard operating procedures of the EMCO, which prohibits all entry and exit movements at the locations involved. In a released statement, the department said, following the regulations, ferry terminals under the supervision of the Marine Department of Malaysia will be closed throughout the EMCO period, and no passenger ferry service is available from Kuala Kedah to Langkawi during this period. However, the cargo service between the two locations will continue as usual. It is said essential services have the alternative to use the Ro-Ro ferry service at the Kuala Perlis passenger ferry terminal, which is not listed among EMCO localities. The department also said it always supports the government's intention to break the COVID-19 infection chain and would ensure that the standard operating procedures throughout the journey are complied with. Yesterday, Senior Minister for Security Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri Yaakob said the EMCO would be enforced for 2 weeks in 28 Mukim in Kota Star district in Kedah starting tomorrow following the surge in COVID-19 cases in the areas. Coming up, police seize a shabu worth over 4.5 million ringgit in Muar. Five members of the Abu Sayyaf group were shot dead by the police in a shootout at a squatter settlement in Beaufort district yesterday morning. Sabah Police Commissioner Datuk Hazani Ghazali today said one of them was the sub-leader of the group known as Mabar Binda, who was also wanted by the Philippine government. Datuk Hazani explained that three others were identified as Abir Sham Samsula, alias Samseed, Jurakdam Binda and Alisimar Sukarno, aged between 20 and 40, while the identity of the fifth member has yet to be ascertained. He said a team of policemen had come to the settlement and knocked on the door of one of the squatter houses when the suspects, armed with pistols, opened fire at the officers while the others tried to attack using machetes, prompting the officers to fire back in self-defense. All of the five Filipino suspects were killed at the scene. He also said, with the death of five members of the group, the police believed that they have crippled yet another cell of Abu Sayyaf who have been hiding in Sabah and have pledged allegiance to the Daesh group. Police also suspect that there are remnants of the group still hiding in Malaysia, especially in Sabah, and they are currently investigating the matter. The Johor police arrested 4 men and an Indonesian woman believed to be involved in drug smuggling syndicates in Muar, Johor. State Police Chief Dato' Ayub Khan Maidin Piche said all suspects aged between 36 and 49 were detained in 4 separate raids, during which 125.78 kilograms of drugs valued at 4.53 million ringgit were seized. Explaining further, Dato' Ayub Khan said the police detained a man and seized a certain amount of shabu during the first raid on 12th May. Following the arrest, the authorities conducted operations at 3 different locations on 13th and 14th May and arrested 2 other men and an Indonesian woman. He said their modus operandi was using a rental house as a place of transit before smuggling the drugs into Indonesia by sea.
Dan dalam satu lagi operasi berasingan pada 14 Mei jam 5:07 malam, pegawai dan anggota di SJR dibantu dengan kru MPV, juga polis daerah Muar yang bertugas di Sekretariat Raya di Jalan Bakar Bata arah Melaka Muar telah menahan sebuah kenderaan yang mencurigakan. Dan hasil pemeriksaan kenderaan tersebut tuan-tuan, yang mana dipandui seorang lelaki Cina tempatan berusia 40 tahun, pihak polis telah menjumpai sebuah dadah jenis shabu disyaki shabu.
The male suspects tested positive for methamphetamine and 3 of them have previous records for drug-related offences. Police also seized 3 cars and 2 bank accounts worth 154.4 million ringgit. All suspects are in remand and the case is investigated under Section 39B of the Dangerous Drugs Act 1952. Meanwhile, 7 individuals aged between 19 and 23 have been arrested by Johor Police yesterday to assist them in investigations over suspected involvement in an unlawful assembly in Batu Pahat on 12th May. Johor Police Chief Dato' Ayub Khan Maidin Piche said investigations are ongoing to identify the mastermind behind the rally.
Tapi setakat ni yang mana yang kita sambung riman, yang kita buat tangkapan baru ni, semua ada memainkan peranan. Sama ada membeli dia punya flare tu, suar tu, membuat banner, menggantung banner, semua ada peranan lah. Tapi sejauh mana ada dalang ataupun tak ada dalam, ataupun ada individu lain di belakang grup ini tuan-tuan, siasatan masih dijalankan.
All of them have been remanded until Thursday. Dato' Ayub Khan added that if anyone has any complaint or dissatisfaction against the government, they need to go through the proper channel. Speaking at a media conference at the Johor Police Contingent in Johor Bahru, Dato' Ayub Khan also said that 20 compounds worth 42,000 ringgit have been issued statewide for violations of the standard operating procedures reimposed under the MCO during the Aidilfitri period from 13th to 17th May. A cattle herder pleaded not guilty at the Kota Bharu court today in the charge of causing hurt to a friend using a machete last week. The accused Muhammad Lotfi Azani Hussein, 30, claimed trial when the charge was read to him in front of Judge Ahmad Bazli Bahrudin. Muhammad Lotfi was charged for allegedly causing grievous hurt to Muhammad Shahrul Almizan Pauzi, 35, by using a machete. He was charged under Section 326 of the Penal Code, which carries a mandatory sentence of a maximum of 20 years in jail and fine or whipped if convicted. The court set bail at 20,000 ringgit with one surety and has to report to a police station once a month and a restraining order. 15th June has been set for submission of documents. A mother of 6 was charged in the Kuantan Magistrates Court today with using the title Datuk Seri Bhakti Setia Temasek, which is an unrecognised foreign award. However, the accused, Sabaria Hashim, aged 44, pleaded not guilty after the charge was read before Magistrate Najwa Hashim. The woman was believed to have committed the offence at the office of the Commercial Criminal Investigation Division, Kuantan District Police Headquarters at 3:30 p.m. on 28 April. The charge was framed under Section 12, Subsection 2 of the offences relating to Awards Act 2017, which carries an imprisonment of up to 3 years if found guilty. Deputy Public Prosecutor Fateh Nadirah Kasim initially offered the suspect bail of 5,000 ringgit with one surety. However, lawyer Muhammad Azhari Mat Asin, who represented the accused, requested for bail to be reduced as the suspect has to provide for her children and her elderly mother. The court then allowed her bail at 4,000 ringgit with one surety and set 9th June for case remention. Foreign segment, terror acts by Zionist regime rages on, death toll rises in Gaza. Battles were waged in the skies above and the ground below Gaza as the Zionist regime bombarded the network of Hamas tunnels and tried to shoot down Hamas rockets. The worst colonial state terrorism in years spiraled into a 9th day today as the Israeli regime bombarded Gaza in southern Lebanon and Hamas fighters fired rockets into southern Israeli settlements. This came hours after US President Joe Biden expressed support for a ceasefire during a call with a regime Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Biden's carefully worded statement fell short of an immediate demand for an end to the regime's bombing campaign in Gaza, which showed little sign of ending after Netanyahu arrogantly said on Monday that his country's armed forces would continue striking at their targets. Late Monday, the Zionist regime military fired artillery shells into Lebanon for the first time since the hostilities began, striking what it said were Palestinian fighters who had attempted to fire rockets into illegal Israeli settlements. The United Nations peacekeeping mission in southern Lebanon tweeted that it had intensified patrols in the area and that the situation on Tuesday morning was calm. But the toll on civilians continued to grow. By late Monday, the regime's bombardment had killed 212 people in Gaza, including dozens of children. In a related development, Gaza's hospitals are fighting on two fronts in the Gaza Strip, the coronavirus front, and the other front, which is more difficult, is treating the wounded. They were already struggling to cope with the COVID-19 pandemic, and they are being stretched further with the ongoing violence committed by the Israeli regime. More than a week into fighting with Palestinians pounded night and day by airstrikes, Gaza's doctors are battling to keep pace. At Shifa, the biggest health facility among the 13 hospitals and 54 clinics serving 2 million Palestinians, the number of intensive care beds have been doubled to 32 as the toll of those wounded from the conflict mounts. Like the rest of the system, the 750-bed hospitals faced shortages of medicines and equipment before violence erupted on 10th May due to a blockade led by the Zionist regime and backed by Egypt. They are not only facing medicines shortage, fuel for generators that power Gaza's hospitals is also running out. According to doctors, more than 200 people have been killed in Gaza since the violent attacks by the Israeli military regime started, with hundreds more wounded by shrapnel or hurt by collapsing buildings. Meanwhile, more Palestinians today hope to unite people across Palestine in a general strike to protest the Zionist regime's air campaign in Gaza and other measures targeting Palestinians. The initiative also has the backing of both Hamas, the group that rules Gaza, and Fatah, the ruling party of the Palestinian Authority that exercises limited self-autonomy in parts of the West Bank. On Monday, social media was flooded with calls on Palestinians to participate in the strike, and a billboard encouraging Palestinians living in Israeli-occupied territories to take part was also seen in Nazareth. In the West Bank, the Palestinian Authority declared that a large number of its employees would participate in the strike. The protesters in the West Bank were planning to head to dozens of areas near where there are the regime's security forces, and clashes were expected. At least 24 people were dead and almost 100 missing today after a monster cyclone slammed into western India, compounding the country's woes as it battles a devastating coronavirus surge. Hundreds of thousands of people were left without power after Cyclone Tauktae hammered the Gujarat coast on Monday evening. Wind up to 130 kilometers per hour smashed seafront windows and knocked over power lines and thousands of trees, blocking road leading to affected areas. The colossal swirling system is the latest of a growing number of increasingly severe storms in the Arabian Sea blamed on climate change. The Indian Navy today said one support vessel serving oil rigs that were walloped by 8-meter waves off Mumbai sank, and 96 of the 273 people who had been on board were missing. The Defense Ministry said 177 people were rescued, with operations continuing in extremely challenging sea conditions. 2 other barges and an oil rig were also in trouble. Elsewhere, 4 fresh casualties were reported Tuesday, including a child crushed by a collapsing wall and an 80-year-old woman killed by a falling pole, Gujarat Chief Minister Vijay Rupani said. He added that over 16,500 houses were damaged, 40,000 trees unrooted, and 2,400 villages without power. Coming up in sports, Harry Kane wants to leave Spurs before Euros. Tottenham Hotspur striker Harry Kane has informed the Premier League club of his desire to leave this summer, with the England international looking to resolve his future before next month's European Championship. Kane has a contract with the North London club until 2024, which could prove to be a stumbling block for a club looking to sign the 27-year-old, who is valued at over £100 million or $141.42 million. Sky Sports reported Manchester United, Manchester City and Chelsea have been in touch with Kane's representatives. With 22 strikes and 13 assists, no player have been involved in more Premier League goals than Kane this season. Kane is in the race for the Golden Boot, an award he has won twice before, with Liverpool's Mohamed Salah, who has also scored 22 goals with 2 games left in the season. Kane said last month he was frustrated at not winning trophies with Spurs, even as the prolific striker continues to win individual accolades. Spurs blew an opportunity to win their first trophy since 2008 when they lost last month's League Cup final to City. Speculation about Kane's future increased after Spurs, who were top of the league in December, dropped down the standings due to a poor run of form, resulting in the club sacking manager Jose Mourinho. Sixth-place Spurs with 59 points have a slim chance of making the top four and qualifying for the Champions League, but must rely on fourth-place Chelsea, who have 64 points, and Liverpool with 63 points, dropping points. Spurs host Aston Villa on Thursday before a trip to third-place Leicester City on the final day of the season. The Football Association of Malaysia FAM sent an official appeal letter to FIFA, the football world governing body, requesting a fair and equitable ruling following the withdrawal of North Korea from the 2022 World Cup 2023 Asian Cup qualifiers. FAM Secretary General Stuart Ramalingam said in a statement, the FAM is asking FIFA to make a decision that is fair for all teams competing in the second round qualifiers beginning next month. Stewart explained that North Korea's withdrawal has led to various possibilities, including the points against the last-placed team not being included in the tally. In the appeal letter, FAM also stressed that FIFA comes up with a solution or ruling that emphasizes fair play and takes the factor of sports integrity into consideration. The Asian Football Confederation AFC on Sunday confirmed that the North Korea Football Association withdrew from the 2022 World Cup 2023 Asian Cup qualifiers and would refer the matter to FIFA. North Korea, which was in Group H with leaders Turkmenistan, South Korea, Lebanon and Sri Lanka, was scheduled to finish the remaining group matches in South Korea. Southeast Asian discus champion Muhammad Irfan Shamsuddin wants more national athletes to be sent overseas for competitions or training regularly so that they can fully realize their potential and talent. The 25-year-old who holds the national discus record at 62.55 meters also urged fellow athletes to be bold in voicing out their needs to the National Sports Associations or the National Sports Council and SC for the sake of their own progress in sports. The four-time SEA Games champion said he was making his call not out of self-interest but for the common good of athletes, especially those who faced problems but didn't want to speak up. Muhammad Irfan said he knew of some athletes, especially backup athletes, who quit because they lacked motivation and could not deal with problems. He questioned why efforts were not made to stop athletes with potential from quitting after they decided to throw in the towel when their requests were not fulfilled. Muhammad Irfan, who is known to be vocal in raising issues affecting the sport, has had his fair share on run-ins with sports authorities. He took his grouses to social media after the contract of his former coach, František Petrovic, was terminated and when there was a delay in approving his applications to train in Czech Republic and Turkey in 2019. Subsequently, he himself financed his 85-day training stint in the Czech Republic at an estimated cost of more than 100,000 ringgit. His action was criticized by NSC and the Malaysian Athletics Federation, but the matter eventually blew over. That concludes this evening's news at 10. In our top story, emergence of new COVID-19 variants worrying. Join us again at 12:30 tomorrow afternoon. I'm Shuhaida Arifin. Stay tuned to Saluran Berita RTM and have a pleasant evening.